The sharks are federally protected, and it is illegal to own them.
But not a panel. This is a bunker.
There are people who have discovered things in their basements that are really horrifying. As a result, here are 9 instances in which people were shocked when they discovered what was unnoticed in their basement. A TikToker made the discovery of a highly strange nuclear bunker that was hidden in the basement of her grandmother's house. Also, she asserts that the previous owners had constructed the bunker. In the video that has been seen almost 4 million times, the lady displayed the secret hideaway of the end-of-day prepper that seemed to be in good condition. She noted that her grandmother isn't good with stairs, hence why the spooky setup remains. At first glance, the de facto fallout shelter seems to be little more than a simple basement with tile flooring. Although it is mostly devoid of inhabitants, it does have storage closets and a breakout area that is not yet built. It seems that the previous owner used the space for the storage of canned food as well as a gun safe in preparation for a nuclear war, or, for example, a zombie apocalypse. Also, another chamber with electrical breaker boxes and other panels conceals a wooden trapdoor that may be climbed into to access a real concrete protected bunker. When we bought the house, there was full canned food storage in here, said Carly of the dark, dirty space. A number of ancient gas masks, candle cans that have rusted over, a water well pump that is located in a tiny side chamber, and at least 6 wooden barracks for sleeping have all been preserved inside the shelter. All of that was something that Carly had been aware of for quite some time. Nevertheless, on her most recent tour, she discovered yet another concealed device for the very first time since the end of the Cold War. A latch is used to activate a unique concrete slide that was installed by the previous owners. This slide allows one to enter the basement from the outside of the house. Another way of putting it is that they had a trap door that allowed them to rapidly reach their makeshift command center. In a statement, Carly said, "When shit hits the fan, I know where I'm coming." One couple was unfortunate enough to make a discovery under their home, and this is exactly what happened. On Reddit, a lady shared a picture of the unsettling-looking object along with her explanation of how she got to be in possession of a mask that was described as being disturbing. By beginning her post on the weird subreddit with the phrase, "We found a radiation mask in the basement of my boyfriend's new house," she began prompting others to speculate as to its purpose. "I presume that is where he grafts the skin of his victims," one Reddit user responded. On the other hand, the discussion quickly took a sinister turn as the person who had found the mask disclosed the purpose for which it had been used in the past. According to her explanation, "It belonged to the man who lived here before him," she explained. "He had cancer and passed away." One Reddit user familiar with such contraptions added, "I'm a radiation therapist, so I work with these on the daily. It's a head and neck orphet for cancer treatment. You can even see that the therapists had to cut a hole out of the mask because the patient probably had a port, and the mask was pressing down on it." Furthermore, Redditors quickly voiced their sorrow upon learning of the finding, with one commenter stating, "Take a moment and reflect on the loss of life for a family. Be thankful for the chance you have. Then remember all things come to pass, to include all of us. To this representative of this mask, RIP." According to the second person, "This just makes me sad. My grandmother had radiation and I felt so awful when she explained the process to me and about having to be pinned down using this mask. Seeing what it actually looks like makes me feel even worse. Hate that anyone has to go through this." As to Cancer Research UK, the mask is made either at the radiotherapy department's mould room by a radiographer or a mould technician, or during the CT planning scans of patients. The process of making a mask can vary slightly between hospitals, the charity explains. Most often they use a special kind of plastic heated in warm water or an oven so that it becomes soft and pliable. When a pair of new homeowners moved into their new house, they discovered a surprising discovery in their basement that they shared with their followers online. On the Reddit platform, Kyle, who goes by the username Kyle Macabre, purchased the first gorgeous property he visited following his wife's new job, which prompted them to relocate to New Mexico as soon as possible. My wife was hired at a nearby university, so I came out ahead of time to meet a real estate agent and view some homes, he explained to Newsweek. He added, the house was in great shape. It was the best I had seen that whole weekend, but there was just one catch. It had a creepy bomb shelter. Kyle compared the scene to something he has seen in horror films, such as the Monster's Cavern in Barbarian, or the psychopath Buffalo Bill's basement in Silence of the Lambs. In a post on Reddit, he said, I didn't go down that day, as you can imagine. He added, we were afraid to go down. We finally got the nerve up and went down. Alas, there were no chains hanging from the ceiling. On the other hand, Kyle was not very concerned about discovering a person that was rotting. Rather, he was more concerned about discovering a building structure that was deteriorating. In an interview with Newsweek, he said, all in all, my biggest concern was the state it might have been in. I was pretty convinced it was going to be super dank and gross down there. I mentally prepared for the worst, maybe a few inches of murky water on the floor, or a dirty old mattress. According to the records that Newsweek was able to collect, the basement structure was constructed in the 1980s and had a sizable underground area complete with a shower and a toilet. The married guy joked that the area would henceforth be known as the sex dungeon. But he then disclosed that he intended to transform it into a soundproof room where he could play music. Following the discovery of a secret, scary chamber in the basement of her house that was 200 years old, a lady was left in a state of total terror. Through the use of TikTok, the lady revealed how she discovered the unsettling discovery as she was seeking to locate the origin of a leak source. In other words, a brick-in wall in the form of what seemed to be an ancient gateway was discovered by Misty. Before Misty and her husband made the decision to try to break down the wall, she claimed that she discovered water seeping from behind the wall. After making a number of unsuccessful efforts, the pair was finally successful in entering the concealed chamber, which left them wondering why it had been sealed off and what it had been used for in the first place. She continued by saying, luckily they're cinder blocks, so they're hollow on the inside. We got through the first part, but we have yet to get through the second part. The reason why we haven't been able to get through it is because this room is filled with rocks. Following that, Misty started doing research on her house, during which she discovered that it had ties to an underground railroad. She expressed her surprise by saying, I didn't know that my house had ties to the underground railroad. We looked up Newport and, sure enough, 8 minutes away, there is a station. Also, there was a rush of viewers to remark on what they believed the chamber was used for, and some of them suggested that they should block it back up and leave it alone. Another chimed in, asking, am I the only one that thinks that room is sealed off for a reason? Bricked-in room, 200-year-old house, that's the plot to most 80s horror movies, lol. Another person chimed in saying, based on your husband's tools, I don't think he's too eager to get in. The fact that husband used a tiny chisel and sage, you're not the people for work. On TikTok, a user by the name of BigBra1 recently shared a strange finding in her basement with their followers. During her search, she came upon what seems to be a secret torture chamber that is adjacent to the restroom in the basement of her house. Before she made the horrifying discovery, the lady had no idea that the chamber even existed. She discovered that the walls of the secret room were covered in handprints and footprints of children, as well as a collection of letters that spelled out the words Love Shack. In addition, the names Rebecca, Callie, and Sarah are written on the walls of the room. Another thing that was revealed by the TikTok user was that the hidden room may be shut from the room itself. According to the opinions of few people, the chamber was nothing more than a fun hiding for children. However, the homeowner stated, although I can concede that it's possible a previous occupant designated the space as a children's play area, branding the hidden room a love shack is a peculiar choice at best. When a homeowner and his partner had acquired a property that was 170 years old, they made an unusual find in the basement of the house, so Pratt was left feeling uneasy by what he discovered. He told Newsweek, We just moved into a house from the mid-1800s. I saw these containers in the spooky basement the first time we came to see the house. I had no idea what they were for. The gigantic containers, built of concrete, were undoubtedly a sight to see, especially considering the fact that their potential applications were not yet fully understood, but Pratt did not seem to be very bothered. I wouldn't say they scared me, though they do inspire some dark imagination. But they made me curious, he said. Based on the assumption that there would be other people with old homes on the internet, he made the decision to upload a few images of the containers on Reddit in the goal of discovering the purpose for which they were being used. One person said that the containers were utilized as an alligator pit, while another individual believed that they were utilized for the purpose of housing eels. In another joke, someone made a reference to a swimming pool for ghosts. A particularly gloomy Redditor made a remark along the lines of, "Definitely the beginning stages of a mass grave." And another user concurred with this statement, saying, "I've seen this in one of the many horror films I've seen. It was for not good things." Pratt was ultimately able to get the information he was looking for, which was that the containers were a component of a cistern. It turns out that this was a common method of collecting and storing water in the past, he said. Water from the roof gutters was piped into the first container, which likely acted as a settling tank, and water from that tank would pour over the top of the dividing wall via a small notch into the second tank, where there was a low spot for a pump or bucket. Obviously, Pratt has no intention of reusing the containers in such a manner under any circumstances. If he were to do so, it would almost certainly result in a significant increase in the humidity and overall levels of moisture in his house. On the other hand, he intends to leave them in their current state, despite the fact that they have a strange look. They're a cool piece of history though, so I plan on keeping them, he said. I may use them for cold storage or just clean them up and leave them for future folks to wonder about. A 26-year-old man from the south suburbs of Lansing allegedly accommodated an alligator in his basement while his neighbors were blissfully unaware. The police stated that the owner, Charles Price, put it out periodically in his backyard. No one knew he had it. No one had ever seen it. According to the police officer, Shannon, the animal, which measured 6 feet in length, spent the majority of its time confined to a large cage located in the basement. A day before Charles Price was taken into custody, an appliance repairman who was working in Price's basement saw that something was stirring inside of a container that was covered. After removing the cover, he took photographs and then alerted the Animal Control Department of the Lansing Police Department. Thus, in his more than 20 years as a police officer, Shannon, who believes he has handled 6 to 8 noticeably smaller alligators, received the call. He gave Conservation Police Officer Roberto Macias and an alligator expert known only as Bob charge of handling the reptile. According to Shannon, the alligator, which is a species that is endemic to Florida, is not a viable species in Illinois. Individuals who want to acquire an alligator for educational reasons, rehabilitation, or any other purpose that is comparable are required to get permission. This provision is meant to safeguard both the animal and the people who are within its reach. The police officer, Shannon, said that Price claimed he obtained the alligator at a swap meet in Kankakee when it was a baby and just a few inches long. In a statement, he said, "It's very common, unfortunately, for endangered animals to be sold under the table. As a result, a misdemeanor charge of unauthorized possession of an endangered species is going to be brought against Price, and he is due to appear in court in Cook County in 2025. Unfortunately, there was no information available on the particular day and place. Additionally, the maintenance of alligators is extremely challenging, according to Shannon. Alterations in temperature, for example, have a significant impact on the animal's overall health. It has been stated that Price fed the alligator chicken breasts, which Shannon referred to as not the proper food. The police officer went on to say that American alligators have the potential to grow extremely huge and are extremely dangerous, especially to dogs and children. Shannon said Price was very fortunate to have never had a mishap in his 26-year relationship with the reptile. According to him, they're wild animals, and obviously, they're extremely unpredictable. A 5-bedroom rural house listed for little over $100,000 would seem like a good bargain, even in these economic downturns, with the exception of the fact that residents of Rexburg, Idaho, refer to this house as the Snake House, as it seems to be perched atop a nest of snakes, which are not deadly. In other words, the house had a troubled past with hurriedly departing owners. However, Ben and Amber Sessions paid less than $180,000 for it, which seemed like a great deal until not long after they moved in, they saw snakes crawling all over the basement. After we moved in, it was really horrible, Amber Sessions told ABC News. There were snakes in the walls. We could hear them, and then our water tasted like how they smell. Sessions said they trusted their real estate agent, who, she claimed, told them the snake problem was made up by the ex-owners so that they could leave their mortgage behind. Also, he assured them that every precaution was made to keep the snakes away. According to the Associated Press, the Sessions acknowledged the snake claims on the papers they signed when they purchased the home, despite being told otherwise. However, Amber Sessions observed 8 snakes in one day, not long after they moved in the house. She claims to have contacted her agent, who promised to use traps to assist them take care of the situation. 3 months after they moved in the house, pregnant Amber Sessions had had enough of what looked like the Serpent House of Horrors, since the situation only kept growing worse. She said that she became so afraid of finding a surprise snake inside the house that she was concerned about miscarrying. One day, we caught 43 snakes in total, and that was it. The next morning, I almost stepped on one in our house, and I had enough. We can't do this anymore, she told ABC News. I don't know how we stayed there as long as we did. 3 months after moving there, and one day after their daughter's birth, the Sessions family abandoned the house in December 2009. However, the couple also felt obliged to file for bankruptcy because they had signed papers recognizing the snakes. We're not going to pay for a house full of snakes, Ben Sessions said to the ABC News. In addition, the house was owned by Neil and Denise Ard before to the Sessions. They allowed a television team to photograph the snake heaps they discovered inside the house in 2006. The video of snakes dripping all over the basement has received more than 3 million views. The Ards eventually left the house and attempted to file a lawsuit against the realtor. In the end, their complaint was dropped. The Sessions family has suffered as a result of the stress. According to Amber Sessions, Ben Sessions has been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder connected to snakes. She continued, saying that at the worst of the infestation, her husband and her boys would walk outside and kill any snakes attempting to enter the basement. According to Rob Cavallaro, a wildlife scientist with the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, the house could have been constructed over a den where a lot of snakes congregate to hibernate throughout the winter. The Session family's experience, according to real estate professionals, is a painful lesson in the value of doing your own research before making an offer on a dream house. This is a buyer beware nation. New York City broker Brian Lewis told ABC News, "You have to do your research, because if you don't do your research, you end up with a house full of snakes." In 2017, the police conducted a search at the basement of a guy who had been stopped in Georgia with 5 tiny sharks in the back of his vehicle. During the search, they discovered 7 sandbar sharks swimming in an above-ground pool that was located in the man's basement. According to the authorities, they discovered the snout of an endangered small-toothed sawfish together with the remains of 2 leopard sharks, a hammerhead shark, and other sharks. Joshua Seguin, 40, of LaGrangeville, New York, entered a guilty plea to the charge of unlawful possession of the fish with the purpose to sell them. He was also forced to pay a fine of $5,000. As a consequence of the case, an underground market was exposed that serves clients, including professional athletes, celebrities, and other people with the means and the desire to keep exotic fish as pets. It was discovered by investigators that Mr. Seguin sold sharks on the website monsterfishkeepers.com under the name Aquatic Apex Life LLC. According to Sarah Hamid, a senior scientist at the Marine Conservation Institute, it is harmful to the ecosystem whenever a shark passes away that occurs in an environment that is not suitable for its survival. Killing sharks is certainly bad for the future of the species. Ms. Hamid said, "That's why we have law to protect endangered species." According to the Office of the Attorney General, biologists from the Long Island Aquarium in Riverhead, New York, and the New York Aquarium in Coney Island aided with the search of Mr. Seguin's house and property. They were also able to relocate the sandbar sharks to the aquarium located in Coney Island. Let this serve as a loud and clear message. We will not tolerate anyone who preys on protected species to line their pockets. For more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like this video. Comment below which case you find the most terrifying, and don't forget to press the bell icon for future notifications.